Captain Jiho stood on the bridge of the space station, staring at the strange signal on his screen. For 3 days something had been approaching Earth's orbit, something that did not belong to any nation on the planet below. "It's slowing down," said Nari, his second-in-command. She leaned closer to her console, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Sir, they're sending us a message." Jiho nodded. "Put it through." What came next was not words, but patterns. Mathematical sequences, pictures made of numbers. It took Nari 15 minutes to decode the basic meaning. "We come in peace. We wish to talk. Please do not be alarmed." "Do not be alarmed." Jiho raised an eyebrow. That's an odd way to start a first contact. The alien ship was beautiful in a strange way. It looked like a massive flower made of silver metal, with petals that slowly rotated around a glowing center. It was easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. Yet it kept its distance, staying far beyond the orbit of the moon. Over the next few hours, both sides worked to establish better communication. The aliens shared their language database. Earth's computers, with help from linguist Suman down on the planet, began to make sense of the alien words. When the first real message came through, everyone on the bridge went silent. "Greetings from the Galactic Coalition," the message read. "We have detected your civilization and wish to establish peaceful contact. However, we have observed your home planet and must proceed with extreme caution. We mean no offense, but we must ask, how have you survived on such a dangerous world?" Jiho read the message 3 times. "Dangerous world, Earth?" "Ma'am," one of the younger officers said to Nari. "They've sent us files. Information about their species, what?" The humans learned in the next hour changed everything they thought. They knew about life in the universe. The Galactic Coalition consisted of over 800 different alien species. They lived on worlds that made Earth look like a nightmare. Their planets had gentle weather, low gravity, and safe environments. Most of their worlds had no predators larger than a small cat. Their suns were stable and calm. Their diseases were rare and easily cured. "They're afraid of rain," Nari said, reading through the data in disbelief. "Heavy rain can hurt them, and they think 20 degrees Celsius is extreme heat." Jiho scrolled through more information. The aliens could not survive falls from more than 1 meter high. Most of them needed special suits to handle the gravity on Earth. Their bodies were fragile, designed for worlds that were safe and predictable. "Send a response," Jiho said. "Tell them we accept their peaceful intentions and would like to meet face to face." The alien response came quickly. Too quickly. They were willing to meet, but only in a specially built space station between their ship and Earth's orbit. They would create an environment that both species could survive in, though they apologized in advance for the harsh conditions that humans would have to endure to meet halfway. Jiho could not help but smile. These aliens had crossed the stars, built a civilization of hundreds of worlds, and yet they were terrified of the planet that humans called home. Down on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity was not alone, but the aliens were not the powerful, advanced beings that movies and books had imagined. They were gentle, peaceful, and scared. Ambassador Suman was chosen to lead the human delegation. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind that worked faster than most computers. With her would go Taeyang, a security officer who had served in 3 different peacekeeping missions, and Hyejin, a scientist who studied how life adapted to different environments. "Remember," the UN Secretary General told Suman before she left, "they are afraid. Be gentle. Show them we are not monsters." The meeting station was completed in 2 weeks. It was a small structure, just large enough for a conference room and basic facilities. The humans arrived in a simple shuttle, piloted by Jiho himself. As they approached, Nari noticed something on the sensors. "Sir, the aliens are watching our approach very carefully. Their medical teams are on standby." "Why would they need medical teams?" Jiho wondered aloud. They found out soon enough. The docking procedure required a few quick turns and a sudden stop. Standard maneuvers that any human pilot learned in basic training. But through the windows, they could see the alien ship's crew scrambling. Several had collapsed. Others were being helped to medical stations. "What just happened?" Taeyang asked. Hyejin checked her instruments. "We pulled 3 Gs during that turn. For about 2 seconds." "That's nothing," Taeyang said. "For us," Hyejin replied quietly. "For them, it might as well be a car crash." The meeting room was large and filled with strange equipment. The gravity was set to Earth standard, which meant the 3 alien delegates needed to wear powered exoskeletons just to stand upright. They looked like insects with long, delicate limbs and large eyes. Their leader, who introduced himself as Captain Velmora, spoke through a translator device. "Thank you for meeting us," Velmora said. His voice was soft, almost musical. "We are honored, though I must admit we are also frightened." Suman smiled warmly. "There is no need to be afraid. We mean you no harm." "It is not that," Velmora said. "It is your nature. We have studied your planet for weeks now. We have seen the storms that could destroy our cities, the earthquakes that split the ground, the creatures that hunt and kill. And yet you live there. You thrive there. How?" The question hung in the air. Hyejin spoke up. "We evolved there. Earth made us strong because we had to be strong to survive." Velmora's eyes widened. "You have predators on your world that could eat a being your size?" "Many of them," Taeyang said casually. "Bears, tigers, sharks, crocodiles. And you fight them?" "Sometimes. Usually we just avoid them." One of the other aliens made a sound like a gasp. "You share your world with such monsters?" Suman realized they needed to slow down. "Our world is dangerous, yes. But it is also beautiful. We have learned to live with the danger. It is normal for us." The conversation continued for hours. The humans tried to explain their world, their history, their nature. The aliens listened with a mixture of fascination and horror. When Hyejin accidentally cut her finger on a sharp edge of the table, the aliens initiated an emergency medical protocol. They could not believe she just wrapped it in a simple bandage and continued talking. As the meeting ended, Velmora looked at Suman with something that might have been respect or might have been fear. "Ambassador Suman," he said, "the Coalition faces a great threat, a species that destroys worlds. We have no warriors. We have no weapons. We have only peace, and peace is not enough anymore. Would your people consider helping us?" Suman looked at Taeyang and Hyejin. Then she looked back at Velmora. "Tell us more about this threat," she said. The galaxy was about to learn what Deathworlders could do. The emergency session of the United Nations lasted for 12 hours. Representatives from every nation gathered to hear what the aliens had told them. The threat was real, immediate, and terrifying. They called it the Devouring Swarm, a species unlike any in the Coalition's long history. The swarm did not negotiate. It did not communicate. It simply consumed. Every living thing on a planet would be harvested, broken down, and used to create more of the swarm. 12 worlds had already fallen. Billions of beings had died. The Coalition had tried to fight back, but they had no experience with war. Their weapons were designed for mining and construction, not combat. Their ships were built for exploration and trade, not battle. Every attempt to stop the swarm had failed. "They are desperate," Suman reported to the UN Assembly. "In 3,000 years of space travel, they have never faced anything like this. They have no soldiers, no military tradition, no concept of organized warfare. And they want us to fight for them?" asked the Chinese representative. "Not for them," Suman corrected. "With them. They are asking for help, not asking us to die in their place." The vote took another 6 hours, but the result was clear. Humanity would help, not because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do. The aliens had come in peace asking for help against a threat that could eventually reach Earth. How could humanity say no? But first, both sides needed to understand each other better. Minho was an intelligence officer who specialized in signals analysis. He was young, barely 30, but his mind worked in ways that impressed even the most advanced computers. While everyone else focused on the Coalition's official communications, Minho searched for what they were not saying. He found it 3 days after the UN vote. "Commander Yuna," he said, bursting into her office, "there are other signals. Hidden ones. Not from the Coalition, but from systems nearby. I think there are more Deathworlders out there." Yuna was the head of Earth's defense coordination. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Minho's data for a long moment. "Are you certain?" "The patterns are similar to our own early radio signals," Minho explained. "Chaotic, unorganized, but definitely artificial. And they are coming from planets the Coalition has marked as uninhabitable death zones." Yuna smiled slowly. "Then we should introduce ourselves." While Earth prepared its military forces, a different kind of mission launched. 3 scout ships, each heading to a different star system. Their goal was simple: Find out if humanity was truly alone among the Deathworlders. Meanwhile, Taeyang had been assigned a new role. The Coalition wanted to learn how humans fought. They sent a team of their own to observe human military training. The first day was a disaster. Taeyang had planned a simple demonstration. Basic hand-to-hand combat techniques. Nothing extreme. Just the kind of training every soldier learned. 2 human Marines would spar while the aliens watched. The fight lasted exactly 45 seconds. The aliens had to be evacuated. What happened? Taeyang asked the Coalition's medical officer, a being named Quinn who looked like a blue butterfly. Shock, Quinn said, his wings trembling. They moved so fast, so violently. The impacts, the aggression, the purpose. We have never seen such controlled brutality. That was not brutal, Taeyang said, confused. They were being careful. No one was hurt, Quinn stared at him. One of them struck the other with enough force to break our bones. Multiple times, and you call that careful? Taeyang began to understand just how different the 2 species were. Hyejin had better luck. She worked with Coalition scientists to study the biological differences between their species and humanity. The results were fascinating and frightening. Human bones were 6 times denser than those of most Coalition species. Human muscles could exert forces that would tear apart alien limbs. The human immune system fought off diseases that would kill an alien in hours. Humans could survive temperature ranges that spanned over 60 degrees Celsius. They could eat foods that were literally poisonous to most galactic species. We are not just different, Hyejin explained in her report. We are built for a level of survival that they cannot even imagine. Earth did not just make us strong, it made us into something the galaxy has never seen. The cultural exchange went both ways. Sumin spent her time learning about the Coalition society. What she found was beautiful and sad at the same time. The Coalition had never known war. Their entire civilization was built on cooperation and mutual benefit. Art, science, philosophy, these were the pursuits that mattered to them. They had cured nearly every disease, eliminated poverty, and created a society where every being could find purpose and happiness. We thought we had achieved perfection, Velamora told Sumin during one of their long conversations. We believed that peace was the natural state of the universe. That intelligence naturally led to cooperation. The swarm has proven us wrong. Peace is not weakness, Sumin said gently. What you have built is remarkable. But peace must sometimes be defended. With violence? Velamora asked. With strength, Sumin corrected. Violence is just one form of strength. But sometimes it is the necessary form. 3 weeks after the first contact, the scout ships returned. Minho had been right. The first ship brought news of the Kryn, massive beings from a frozen world, where gravity was twice that of Earth. They communicated through sounds, so deep that humans could feel them in their bones. They were slow but incredibly strong and nearly impossible to kill. The second ship found the Velchar, small, fast creatures from a world that was tidally locked, where one side always faced the sun and the other was forever dark. They had adapted to both extremes, making them resilient beyond measure. The third ship discovered the Urgan, silicon-based life from a volcanic planet. They did not breathe oxygen. They did not fear fire. They were so different from carbon-based life that they seemed impossible, yet they existed. 4 Deathworlder species, 4 civilizations that had survived the unsurvivable. Sumin was chosen to make first contact with each of them. The meetings were challenging. The Kryn were suspicious and aggressive. The Velchar were cautious and observant. The Urgan were curious but alien in ways that made communication difficult. But Sumin found common ground with each of them. She told them about Earth, about humanity's struggles, about the Coalition's plea for help. And she asked them the same question the Coalition had asked humanity. Would they help? The Kryn leader, Thornback Kree, responded first. You fight for beings weaker than yourself? We fight for beings who need help, Sumin said. Kree considered this. Then we fight too. The weak should be protected, not consumed. The Velchar leader, Swiftclaw, had a different reason. This swarm threatens the balance. It takes without giving. It destroys without creating. This is wrong. The Urgan delegate, Embercore, communicated through pulses of light. The translation was simple. We understand survival. We will help others survive. When the 4 Deathworlder species met together for the first time, the Coalition representatives could barely believe it. These beings were so different from each other. Yet they shared something fundamental. They had all been forged in fire, shaped by worlds that tried to kill them every day. Commander Yuna addressed the combined gathering. Humans, Kryn, Velchar, and Ergen stood together. Around them, in protective viewing areas, the Coalition watched in awe and fear. "We are different species," Yuna said. "We come from different worlds. We think differently, live differently, believe differently. But we share one truth. We know what it means to survive against impossible odds. The Coalition needs us, and I believe we need each other. Together, we can show the galaxy that Deathworlders are not monsters. We are guardians." The Deathworld Alliance was born in that moment, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Coalition's central world, Harmony Prime, had never seen anything like the fleet that now orbited it. Ships from 4 Deathworlds, each design reflecting the harsh environment that created it. Human vessels were sleek and efficient, built for speed and maneuverability. Kryn ships were massive blocks of armor, designed to take hits that would destroy lesser craft. Velchar fighters were small and impossibly fast, darting between larger ships like insects. Ergen vessels glowed with internal heat, their hulls made of materials that could withstand temperatures that would melt steel. Jiho walked through the human flagship, indomitable with a sense of pride and worry. Pride in what humanity had built, worry about what was coming. "Captain," Nari called from her station, "the Alliance commanders are ready for the strategy meeting." The meeting room was specially designed to accommodate all 4 species. The gravity shifted in different zones. The temperature varied. The atmosphere was a careful mixture that all could breathe, though the Ergen still needed special equipment. Thornback Kree spoke first, his voice like grinding stone. "Show us the enemy." Hyejin activated the holographic display. Images of the swarm filled the air. They were not ships in the traditional sense. They were organic structures, grown rather than built. Each one was different, adapted for a specific purpose. Some were massive carriers that birthed smaller attack forms. Others were designed to land on planets and begin the harvesting process. "They reproduce quickly," Hyejin explained. "Every world they consume gives them more resources to create more of themselves. If we do not stop them soon, they will become unstoppable." Swiftclaw of the Velchar tilted her head. "They have weaknesses?" "Every living thing has weaknesses," Taeyang said. He had been studying the swarm's tactics for weeks. They rely on overwhelming numbers. They adapt quickly, but they follow patterns. They think as a collective, which makes them predictable in some ways. Embercore pulsed a question in light. The translator converted it to words. "What is their origin?" Mio stepped forward. "That is something we recently discovered. The swarm was not natural. It was created." The room went silent. "We found records in an old Coalition database," Minho continued. "Thousands of years ago, there was another Deathworlder species. They were advanced, powerful, and aggressive. They created the swarm as a weapon, a way to break down enemy planets and use the resources for their own expansion. But they lost control. The swarm consumed their homeworld, destroyed their civilization, and has been spreading ever since. A warning from the past," Kree rumbled. "They created their own destruction." "Which is why we must be careful," Suman added. "We are here to defend, not to become the next threat. The Coalition is watching us. They are afraid of what we might do with our power." Commander Yuna nodded. "Our strength is a tool, not a weapon of conquest. We protect, we do not dominate. Is this understood?" The other Deathworlder leaders agreed. They had all seen what unchecked aggression could do. Their own histories were filled with wars and conflicts, but they had also learned to control those impulses, to use their strength wisely. The training began the next day. Taeyang found himself working with Coalition volunteers. Most species would never be warriors, but some wanted to help in any way they could. One of these was Kesserin, a young pilot from a species that looked like tall, thin birds. "I want to learn," Kesserin said. "I want to be useful." "You already are useful," Taeyang said. "You are a skilled pilot." "I want to be more," Kesserin insisted. "I want to be brave like you," Taeyang smiled. "Bravery is not about being fearless. It is about being afraid and doing what must be done anyway. You have already shown bravery by volunteering." The training was hard for Kesserin. His body was not built for combat. But he learned to think like a fighter, to anticipate and react, to find strength and intelligence rather than force. Taeyang was proud of him. Hyejin worked with scientists from all species, combining their knowledge. The Coalition had technology that humanity had only dreamed of. Energy shields, faster than light communication, medical techniques that could heal almost any injury. But they had never weaponized these technologies. "We can adapt your shield technology," Heejin explained to a coalition engineer. "Instead of just blocking attacks, we can reflect them back at the swarm." "But that would harm living beings," the engineer said, troubled. "The swarm does not negotiate," Heejin said gently. "It does not feel pain or fear. It only consumes. This is not murder. This is survival." The engineer eventually agreed. Across the Alliance, similar conversations happened. The gentle coalition learned to accept that sometimes survival required hard choices. Minho continued his intelligence work, mapping the swarm's movements. He noticed something interesting. "They avoid certain systems," he told Yuna. "Systems with high radiation, unstable stars, or extreme gravity. They prefer stable, peaceful systems, like the coalition worlds. Because those are easier to consume," Yuna said. "Exactly. But it also means they are not adapted to harsh environments. Our Deathworld experience gives us an advantage." Jiho took this information and began planning. If they could lure the swarm into hostile territory, they could level the playing field. The swarm was powerful, but it was not invincible. The cultural exchange continued. Humans learned from the Kryn about honor and loyalty. The Kryn valued strength, but also the protection of those weaker than themselves. From the Velchar, humans learned about adaptability and patience. The Velchar had survived by being flexible, changing their tactics to match their environment. The Urgan taught resilience, the ability to endure any hardship and emerge stronger. In return, humans shared their own knowledge. Art and music that expressed emotions the coalition had never considered. Stories of struggle and triumph that inspired even the most peaceful species. Philosophy that balanced strength with compassion. One evening, Suman sat with Velmora, watching ships move through the orbital space. "Are you afraid of us?" Suman asked. Velmora was quiet for a long time. "Yes," he finally said. "But I am also grateful, and I am learning that fear is not always bad. Fear keeps us careful. Fear reminds us that danger exists. We had forgotten that." "What will happen after the war?" Suman asked. "Will we still be welcome?" "I hope so," Velmora said. "You have shown us that strength and kindness can exist together, that warriors can be gentle, that power can be used to protect. The coalition needs that lesson." 6 weeks after the Alliance formed, everything was ready. The combined fleet was assembled. The warriors were trained. The technology was prepared. All that remained was to find the swarm and stop it. Minho provided the location. The swarm had launched a major assault on a coalition world called Paldor. It was a beautiful planet home to 15 billion beings. Most of them were being evacuated, but millions remained trapped behind swarm lines. Commander Yuna addressed the entire fleet. Thousands of beings from multiple species listened to her words. "We are about to face an enemy that has destroyed worlds," she said. "An enemy that shows no mercy, feels no compassion, knows no fear. But neither do we know defeat. We come from worlds that tried to kill us every day. We survived. We thrived. We became strong. Now we use that strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Today we show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do." The fleet moved out. Jiho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, Nari beside him. "Ready for this?" Nari asked. Jiho smiled. "We were born ready." The battle for Paldor was about to begin. The system containing Paldor looked like a vision of hell. The swarm had been there for 2 weeks, and already half the planet was covered in their organic structures. From space, the world looked sick, with dark tendrils spreading across the surface like a disease. Jiho watched the scans with cold determination. "Nari, get me a count on enemy vessels." 347 large forms, Nari reported. Thousands of smaller ones. And more are being created every hour. The coalition fleet hung back at a safe distance. Their ships were designed for observation and support, not combat. But the Deathworlder fleet moved forward without hesitation. "All ships, this is Commander Yuna." The communication came through. "We go in fast and hard. Kryn ships, you take the heavy carriers. Felchar fighters, you handle the small attack forms. Urgan vessels, you focus on the planetary structures. Human fleet, we provide coordination and support fire. The coalition provides medical and evacuation services. Remember your training. Trust each other. And show them why you do not threaten a Deathworlder's friends." The battle began with the Velchar. Their small, fast ships darted into the swarm formation like arrows. The swarm's organic vessels tried to track them, but the Velchar were too quick. They struck with precision, targeting the joints and weak points of the larger swarm forms. Behind them came the Kryn. Their massive ships crashed into the swarm carriers like hammers. The impacts alone destroyed smaller swarm vessels. Kryn vessels had no need for elegant maneuvers. They were built to endure and destroy through sheer force. The Urgan approached the planet itself. Their ships descended through the atmosphere, their heat-resistant hulls glowing red. They landed directly on top of the swarm structures and began to burn them away. The swarm could not fight fire with fire. The Urgan could. The human fleet wove through the chaos, providing cover and coordination. Jiho's Indomitable fired precisely, taking out swarm vessels that threatened the other Alliance ships. His crew worked with efficiency born from thousands of years of naval tradition. "Target the one on our left," Jiho ordered. 3-second burst, the weapons fired. The swarm vessel exploded. "Captain, we have a problem," Nari said. "The swarm is adapting. They are starting to predict the Velchar movements." "Taeyang," Jiho called to the tactical officer. "Suggestions?" Taeyang studied the patterns. "The swarm learns from repetition. We need to introduce chaos. Random attacks, unpredictable timing. Humans are good at that. All ships," Jiho broadcast, "switch to irregular attack patterns. Do not give them time to learn." The human fleet began to fight in ways that made no logical sense. Ships would suddenly accelerate, then stop. They would fire at random intervals. They would retreat, then attack from unexpected angles. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. The swarm could not adapt to what it could not predict. On the planet's surface, a different battle raged. Doyun led a ground team into the largest city on Paldor. Millions of coalition citizens were trapped there, surrounded by swarm forces. His team consisted of 5 humans, 2 Kryn warriors, 3 Velchar scouts, and 1 coalition volunteer, Kesserin. "Remember," Doyun said as their shuttle approached the drop zone, "we are here to rescue, not to fight. Fighting is secondary. Get the civilians out. And if the swarm gets in our way," one of the Kryn asked. "Then we go through them," Doyun said simply. The shuttle landed in a plaza. The city was a nightmare. Swarm creatures moved through the streets searching for any remaining life. The buildings were covered in the organic material the swarm used to harvest biological matter. "Kesserin," Doyun said, "you are our eyes in the sky. Use that coalition scanner and find me the civilians." Kesserin's wings trembled, but he activated his equipment. "There's a large group in a building 3 blocks north. Maybe 2,000 beings. Then that is where we go." The team moved through the ruined city. The Velchar scouts went ahead, their speed allowing them to spot threats before the main group reached them. The Kryn stayed at the back, their size and strength making them perfect for rearguard duty. The humans moved in the middle, weapons ready. They encountered their first swarm creatures 2 blocks from the target building. The things looked like insects the size of cars with too many legs and mandibles that could cut through steel. "Engage," Doyun ordered. The fight was brutal but quick. Human weapons tore through the swarm creatures. The Velchar used their speed to attack from behind. The Kryn simply grabbed the creatures and crushed them. Within minutes, the street was clear. Kesserin stared at the destruction. "You make it look easy." "It is not easy," Nari said. She was part of Doyun's team, serving as the communication specialist. "We are just very good at it, and we have had a lot of practice." They reached the building and found the civilians huddled in a basement. They were terrified, many injured, all traumatized, but they were alive. "We are here to help," Doyun said through a translator. "Follow us. Stay close. We will protect you." The evacuation was harder than the infiltration. 2,000 civilians moved slowly, and the swarm was everywhere. The team had to fight constantly, clearing a path through the city back to the landing zone. Halfway there, disaster struck. A swarm carrier landed directly in their path and dozens of creatures poured out. "We cannot fight through that many," one of the humans said. Doyun looked at the civilians, then at his team. "Yes, we can. Kryn, you and I take point. Velchar, protect the flanks. Humans, cover the rear. Kesserin, keep those civilians moving no matter what happens." "But," Kesserin started. "You can do this," Doyun said, looking the young pilot in the eyes. "I know you can." The battle that followed became legendary. Doyun and the 2 Kryn warriors charged directly into the swarm, drawing most of the creatures toward them. The Velchar darted around the edges, preventing any swarm from circling around to the civilians. The human soldiers held the rear, their weapons firing in precise bursts, and Kesserin, the gentle coalition pilot who had never fought before, kept the civilians together. He shouted encouragement, helped the injured, and somehow kept 2,000 panicked beings moving in the right direction. They lost one of the Kryn warriors. A swarm creature got through and struck him down. He died protecting a group of civilian children, his last act one of pure selflessness. But the rest made it to the landing zone. Coalition evacuation ships swept down and began loading the civilians. The team provided cover until the last civilian was aboard. "Good work," Doyen said, looking at his exhausted team. Then he looked at Kesserin. "Especially you. You were brave today." Kesserin's feathers were matted with dirt and blood, none of it his own. "I was terrified every second." "Bravery is not the absence of fear," Doyen said. "It is doing what must be done despite the fear. You are a warrior now, whether you believe it or not." In space, the battle reached its climax. The swarm had adapted as much as it could, but the Deathworlders kept changing their tactics. Commander Yuna watched from her command ship as the tide turned. "All vessels focus fire on the main carrier," she ordered. "If we take it down, the rest will lose coordination." The combined fleet concentrated their weapons on the largest swarm vessel. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, but under the sustained assault from 4 different Deathworlder species, it began to break apart. When it finally exploded, the smaller swarm vessels lost their organization. They began to scatter, moving randomly. The Deathworlder fleet hunted them down one by one. 6 hours after the battle began, Paldor was free. The swarm was destroyed or driven off. The planet was saved, but the cost was high. 17 human ships lost, 4 Kryn vessels destroyed. Dozens of Velchar fighters had not returned. 3 Ergen ships had crashed into the planet's surface, their crews dead but having completed their mission. Commander Yuna stood before the survivors. "We won today, but this was just one battle. The swarm is still out there. More worlds are at risk. Are you ready to continue?" The answer came from thousands of voices in dozens of languages from 4 different species. Yes. The galaxy was learning what it meant to have Deathworlders as allies. For 3 months, the Deathworld Alliance fought the swarm across the galaxy. They won every battle, but the victories came at a price. Every engagement cost lives. Every world they saved showed them the horror of what the swarm could do. Minho worked day and night studying the swarm's patterns. He was exhausted, surviving on coffee and determination, but he had found something important. "Commander Yuna," he said, bursting into her quarters at 3 in the morning. "I found it. The swarm's central hive." Yuna was awake instantly. "Show me." The hologram displayed a star system on the edge of known space. The star itself was dying, throwing off radiation and solar flares. The planets were torn apart by gravitational forces, and in the middle of this chaos was the swarm's home. No coalition ship could survive in that system, Minho explained. The radiation alone would kill them in minutes. The gravity wells would tear apart any normal vessel, but Deathworlder ships could make it through. "How certain are you?" Yuna asked. 97%. All swarm movements trace back to this location. If we destroy the central hive, the rest will lose coordination. They will become just mindless creatures, easy to hunt down. Yuna called an emergency meeting of the Alliance leaders. Jiho, Thornback Kree, Swiftclaw, and Embercore gathered within the hour. "This is a suicide mission," Kree said bluntly, after hearing the plan. "Even our ships will struggle in those conditions." "But it is possible," Jiho said. "We have survived impossible things before." "The question is not, can we do it?" Swiftclaw said softly. "The question is, should we do it? If we fail, the swarm wins. If we succeed, the galaxy loses its defenders. We trained others," Yuna reminded them. "Kesserin and thousands like him. The coalition is not helpless anymore, but they still need us to finish this." Embercore pulsed in light. The translation read, "Then we finish it." The fleet that entered the dying star system was smaller than those that had fought before. Only the best ships, the best crews. They left behind enough forces to defend coalition space if the worst happened. Jiho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable with Nari beside him. They had fought together for months now. They had become more than colleagues. They were family. "Remember when we first saw the alien ship?" Nari asked. "I thought it was going to be like the movies. Powerful aliens coming to either save us or destroy us." Instead, we became the powerful ones, Jiho said with a small smile. Life is strange. The journey into the system was hell. Solar flares lashed at their shields. Gravity wells tried to pull them off course. Radiation flooded their sensors. But the Deathworlder ships pushed forward. On the human medical ship, Hyejin worked to keep the crews alive. The radiation was affecting everyone, even with the best shielding. She had developed treatments using a combination of human, Kryn, Velchar, and Ergen medical knowledge. It helped, but it was not enough. We can survive about 6 hours in these conditions, she reported to Yuna. After that, even our resilience will fail. Then we have 6 hours to end this, Yuna said. The swarm's central hive was a nightmare made real. It was not a ship or a station. It was a living planet, entirely consumed and transformed by the swarm. Billions of creatures crawled across its surface. Thousands of vessels orbited it, ready to defend. This is it, Yuna said to the entire fleet. One final battle. We came from worlds that tried to kill us. We survived. We thrived. We became strong. Today, we show the galaxy why you do not threaten the innocent when Deathworlders are watching. All ships engage. The battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships danced through the chaos, their pilots pushing their vessels to the absolute limit. Kryn ships crashed into swarm carriers, their crews fighting hand-to-hand in the wreckage. Velchar fighters moved so fast they were barely visible, striking and vanishing before the swarm could respond. Ergen vessels flew directly into the hive planet's atmosphere, burning everything in their path. Taeyang coordinated the attack from his station on the Indomitable. Focus on the organic towers. Those are the hive's communication nodes. Destroy them and the swarm loses its coordination. The Deathworlders attacked with precision and fury. One by one, the towers fell. The swarm's response became slower, more confused. But the swarm had one last surprise. From the depths of the hive planet emerged something massive. The hive queen herself, a creature the size of a city, armored in organic plates that could withstand ship weapons. I will handle this, Yuna said, her voice calm. All other ships continue the mission. Take down those towers. Commander, you cannot face that thing alone, Jiho protested. I am not alone, Yuna said. She switched to a private channel. Doyun, are you ready? Doyun was on a boarding ship with the best warriors from all 4 species. Ready, Commander. Then let's introduce ourselves to the Queen. Yuna's command ship dove toward the Hive Queen, weapons blazing. The Queen responded with bioweapons that dissolved metal and acid that burned through shields. But Yuna kept coming, closer and closer until her ship crashed directly into the Queen's armored head. The boarding team launched from the wreckage. Doyun led the charge with humans, Kryn, Velchar, and Ergen warriors beside him. They fought their way into the Queen's body, battling through defensive creatures and immune responses that tried to stop them. The core should be here. Hyejin's voice came through their communicators. She was analyzing scans from safety. It is the biological center. Destroy it and the Queen dies. They found it in a chamber deep inside the Queen, a pulsing mass of tissue and neural connections, controlling billions of swarm creatures across the galaxy. Set the charges, Doyun ordered. They worked quickly, planting explosives throughout the chamber. One of the Velchar warriors was caught by a defensive tentacle. She died buying them time to finish. 2 human soldiers stayed behind to manually trigger the charges when the remote detonators failed. Go, one of them said. We will finish this. Doyun wanted to argue, but there was no time. You will be remembered, he said. The team escaped seconds before the explosions. The Hive Queen's scream echoed through space as her core was destroyed. Her massive body thrashed, then went still. Across the galaxy, swarm creatures stopped moving. Without the Queen's coordination, they became nothing more than mindless animals. Dangerous, but no longer an existential threat. The surviving Deathworlder ships limped out of the dying star system. They had won, but the cost was heavy. Nearly a third of the fleet had been destroyed. Thousands of warriors from all 4 species had died. Commander Yuna survived, barely. She was pulled from the wreckage of her command ship, injured but alive. When she woke in the medical bay, the first thing she asked was, "Did we win?" "We won," Hyejin said, tears in her eyes. It is over. 20 years later, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Ambassador Suman, now older and gray-haired, stood before the Galactic Unity Summit. Representatives from over 1,000 species filled the chamber. Among them were humans, Kryn, Velchar, and Ergen, no longer outsiders but full members of the galactic community. We gathered today to remember, Suman said. To remember the sacrifice of those who died protecting worlds not their own. To remember the lesson they taught us, that strength without compassion is tyranny. But compassion without strength is vulnerability. The coalition had changed. They were still peaceful, still gentle, but they had learned. They had defense forces now, trained by Deathworlders but serving their own peaceful purposes. They could protect themselves while remaining true to their nature. On Earth, young Hana, daughter of the legendary Captain Jiho, taught a class of students from a dozen different species. She was explaining Earth's history, the wars and conflicts that had shaped humanity. We learned from our mistakes, she said. We learned that violence should be the last resort, not the first. We learned that our strength is a tool to protect, not to dominate. And we shared these lessons with our friends across the stars. One of her students, a young coalition being, raised a delicate hand. But you are Deathworlders. How can you be so gentle when you are so strong? Hana smiled. Because strength and gentleness are not opposites. My father once told me that the strongest beings are those who could harm others but choose not to. That is real strength. Admiral Kesserin watched the class from the doorway. He was older now, his feathers touched with gray. But he stood tall, proud of how far he had come from that frightened pilot who had volunteered so long ago. Nari found him there. She was a fleet coordinator now, helping manage cooperation between Coalition and Deathworlder forces. Thinking about the old days? Nari asked. Always, Kesserin said. I was so afraid of you when we first met. You were so strong, so violent, so alien. And now you are family, Kesserin said simply. The Deathworlders taught us something important. They taught us that family is not about being the same. It is about standing together when it matters. Across the galaxy, on 4 different worlds, the same lesson was being taught. On frozen Krynhome, massive warriors trained alongside delicate coalition beings teaching strength tempered with wisdom. On the tidally locked Velchar world, students learned about adaptability and cooperation. On volcanic Ergen, beings of silicon and carbon worked together, proving that even the most different species could find common ground.